Spend my days with a woman unkind, smoke my stuff and drink all my wine. Made up my mind, make a new start, going to California with an aching in my heart. Someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in her hair. Took my chances on a big jet plane. Never let them tell you that we're all the same. Oh, the sea was red and the sky was gray. Wondered how tomorrow could ever follow today. Mountains in the canyon started to tremble and shake. Children of the sun begin to wake. Watch out. It seems like the wrong of the gods got a punch on the nose and it started to flow. I think I might be sinking. Throw me a line if I reach you in time. Meet you up there at the path runs straight. Find the queen without a king. They say she plays guitar and cries and sings. La la la. Ride a white mare in the footsteps of dawn, trying to find a woman who's never, never, never been born. Standing on the hill in the mountain of dreams, telling myself it's not as hard as it seems. Spend my days with a woman unkind, smoke my stuff and drink all my wine. Made up my mind, make a new start, going to California with an aching in my heart. Someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in her hair. Took my chances on a big jet plane. Never let them tell you that we're all the same. Oh, the sea was red and the sky was gray. Wondered how tomorrow could ever follow today. Mountains in the canyon started to tremble and shake. Children of the sun begin to wake. Watch out. Seems that the wrath of the gods got a punch on the nose and it started to flow. I think I might be sinking. Throw me a line if I reach into town. Meet you up there at the Bathroom Street. To find the queen without a king. They say she plays guitar and cries and sings. La la la. Ride a white mare in the footsteps of doom, trying to find a woman who's never, never, never been born. Standing on the hill in the mountain of dreams, telling myself it's not as hard as it seems.
What is going on, people? Postseason baseball is running through my veins, and I have no better way to say it, Justin. That's all I got.
Absolutely, man. I mean, what we just saw, I don't know how you can't be more excited about what the rest of the postseason is going to look like.
I totally agree. 3 of the 4 wild card series going to Game 3. Hope everybody's having an excellent Friday. We appreciate you spending some time. That is the one and only Justin Aguiar popping in on the live today to give you his commentary on postseason baseball, along with me, who we all know you're not excited to hear anything from. As always, we got to start this where we start this. And Justin, today I am somebody who is near and dear to my heart, and that is Howie Kendrick. Nationals, NLDS, 10th inning Grand Slam hero in 2019.
Remember
made a lot of people's days. It did, other than a whole subset of fans, but a lot of other people's days. Who are you today?
I am the light-hitting Colorado shortstop from the mid to late 2000s, Clint Barnes. I was just thinking of, with it being the postseason, I was like, well, what are some teams that have a long shot to get there? And I think we can all say that the Rockies making it in 2007 was kind of a shock. But when I went and looked at Clint Barnes' numbers, he was actually hurt that year, so he didn't really make any contributions. So I guess the name, maybe he was good luck. Maybe him not being there and being a light hitting shortstop gave him some flexibility. Who knows?
Listen, I love your choice. Why? Because we are on a postseason episode talking about the Rockies. You did an excellent job there. Everybody here in Denver, where I'm at, is appreciative of your choice tonight. Look. We just said it. Postseason baseball has been excellent so far. And, I really do want to dive right in. And let's talk about the game that was on everybody's mind last night, the Yankees-Red Sox game. Cam Schlittler was unbelievable last night. 8 strong innings, looked like the monster everybody in New York hopes he can be.
Yeah, and, man, look, I know New York's big market, and, they're going to get on TV a lot. But there's not a lot of people that I think really knew who Cam Schlittler was and what his stuff was like on a national scale. And you got to see what one of the best fastballs in the league is like. I mean, that ball was just exploding out of the hand, easily, 98, 99, just spinning it, top of the zone. And it just, it's that Louisiana fastball by you.
You're listen, Flax is very happy to hear you say that because he would have been the one wanting to say that if he was here. Listen, we can sit here and talk about his fastball all day as well. I think another thing that's extremely impressive is we're talking about a 24-year-old who went more than 3.1 innings in a playoff start. How else do you put that, right? And there's no knock towards anybody else. We live in an era where starters are throwing less and less innings in the postseason. And to have a 24-year-old rookie come out and throw the way that he did and with the longevity within the game was excellent. 12 Ks last night. For those of you who don't know much about Schlittler's stuff, you saw it last night, hopefully. If you didn't get to see it, we're talking about a guy who's averaging 98 on his fastball that consistently does have somewhere between 3 and 7 inches of horizontal run. It could be as high, actually, as 12, comboing that with a sinker, curve, and sweeper. Really loved what I saw from him last night. And honestly, he's going to be in some huge spots here coming up because we're talking about the guy who's probably lined up to pitch Game 3 or 4 of this next series against Toronto, which we'll get into a little bit later. The Yankees bats last night, too, came alive when they needed to. I did want to bring up a guy that we've beat up across the board, every baseball fan in some way, and that's Anthony Volpe has hit very, very well here in the in the wild card series, which I think is huge for the Yankees because you're talking about the guy who right now is technically second on the team in average through the wild card game. We're talking about a small sample size. I'm with it. I know people don't care about average, but Volpe's bat in the 8 hole of that lineup could actually be a bigger difference maker than people realize if he can continue to swing the bat well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he had shown, it's not like we've never seen Anthony Volpe hit at all. It's been there. We've seen it. Now he had his struggles, and there's no one that can disagree with that this year. But he did show strides, I think, later in the year, here and there, that's like, okay, is something starting to click maybe a little bit? And the Yankees, yeah, they absolutely need that. I mean, you obviously have the mashers there. I think it was something like 7 guys had hit 20 home runs or 6 or something like that on the team. So home runs are going to obviously play a huge role, as they always do in the postseason. But if you can have Anthony Volpe in the 8 hole, just keep that lineup moving and get back to Aaron Judge and get back to Cody Bellinger and get back to Stanton. I mean, we saw it last night, just being able to, again, keep the line moving.
Absolutely, Ed. I do want to point out, too, because I thought it was very entertaining, Stanton hitting a men's league double, as I'm going to start to call it, pimping the ball that doesn't go over the fence. That was a ton of fun for me to watch. Stanton, too, has not hit well so far to start this postseason from a standpoint of bat-to-ball skills. That, I think, is the biggest of all of their bats that I think I need to see something from here as we move through the postseason. Obviously, the competition, if they can continue to proceed through and make it even through just the Blue Jays, is going to get higher and higher as we go here. Stanton's bat was extremely important last year. All he did was put the ball over the fence in the postseason. I think we probably need to see a little bit more of that Stanton here too, here as well.
Yeah, and you also got to remember these Yankees don't have Juan Soto either. You can't just go and make him. But are they trying to take from the Moneyball quote, build him in the aggregate? I really don't know how you can build Juan Soto in the aggregate, but you got to remember they don't have that either. So it will. I think Stanton. I agree with you. Will play it. His bat has to be there. If it's not, I think that's a big red flag for the Yankees.
Totally agree. Let's move on real quickly here to the other team in the AL that advanced through the wild card, and that's the Detroit Tigers. They had a really, really difficult September, to say the least. The irony is that getting to play the Cleveland Guardians was probably in their best interest. It was a team they had already seen 6 times in September and is an interdivision foe, so they had a really good idea. And it's especially somebody who knows all about this, their advanced scouting department had a ton on this Guardians team. For a team that was sliding, I think the matchup ended up being right. But it did all start with a guy like Tarek Skubal going out and doing what he does, right? And having to duel toe-to-toe with a Gavin Williams who looked just as good in that Game 1.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I was very impressed with Gavin Williams. I think if you can bottle that for Cleveland, they churn out pitchers, it seems like, just out of nowhere, every year. But, I'm excited to see for them. But, Tarek Skubal, it's like, he goes out and does what he does, and it's almost like, oh, yeah, ho-hum. That's just what he's supposed to do. He's the best pitcher in the league, and I agree, too, with Detroit. With the postseason, the familiarity aspect plays a huge role, and like you said, being a division foe, you've seen them a lot in September. You have all these advanced numbers on them, and then you're going to see those same bullpen guys back-to-back in games in the postseason. So I think that played a huge role for them. I still give a lot of credit to Cleveland just for being able to hang on and get there and take advantage of Detroit's misfortunes. But I do think at the end of the day, the better team did prevail.
Yeah, biggest question here, I think, for Detroit is going to be the starting staff. You can run a four-man staff in the postseason. We all know that. I think with who is healthy, unfortunately, for Detroit, we're probably going to see a three-man staff plus a bullpen game. Bullpen games, once the series get to 7 games, can be a very, very difficult situation. Do you feel right now that between Skubal, Flaherty, and Mize, that's going to be enough to help them move through what is going to be a very, very good Mariners team?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this on the drive home today about just running the 3-man versus a 4. Skubal on short rest, I have faith in. Just because he is that guy. But when you have to ask Flaherty or Mize if they have to do that, it gets dicey. And this Mariners team is, they slug. They obviously have the big dumper with 60 bombs on there, but somewhat quietly, I guess, because he started the season off so slow. But Julio Rodriguez putting up another fantastic year. It will be dicey, and AJ Hinch will have to really manage those matchups, manage the bullpen in those games, to hopefully lengthen some of those, lengthen his bullpen rather, to make sure that he's getting, again, those matchups right. If he gets one matchup wrong in one game, it could switch the whole energy.
I totally agree with you. I think the big name for me when I look at this bullpen is going to be Tyler Holton. This is a guy who has started games at the big league level. He's a guy who can go 3 to 4 innings for you plus as needed. He's the guy that I look to that's going to have to really, really step up. I also look at what the Mariners bring to the table, and I like the lefty starter matchup there. So him getting an opportunity to go through a lineup 1 to 2 times in this series could be big. We'll talk a little bit more about the actual series here. I did want to highlight one guy who has just struggled for a long time, but at the current moment, when you look at holistically how people are hitting, Kerry Carpenter has been the best hitter in the postseason so far on the American League side. This is a guy who has also walked 4 times and only struck out 3 throughout that 3-game period. The at-bats that he is taking right now, and since he has come back off injury, this is exactly what Detroit needs down the stretch. I'm excited to see what he does in this series.
Yeah, he looks locked in. I was very familiar with Kerry Carpenter all year. I had him on my fantasy team. So, as much as I wish it was going into using postseason stats now, no, I totally agree that he looks locked in. And when he had his stretches during the season where he was locked in, you couldn't get him out. So I totally agree. And I think too, with Seattle being the boppers that they are, Detroit's going to have to go blow for blow, and you're going to need Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green to step up in those roles.
Absolutely. And then, of course, before we move on here, real quick shout out to Javier Baez himself. 5 hits and 11 at-bats to start this postseason. He also does what he does best, and that's put tags on people at second base. I mean, his defense has always been extraordinary. His ability to what I would consider catch and tag is second to none.
Yep. He just makes it look effortless.
It's impressive. Moving right along here, the Chicago Cubs found their way past the San Diego Padres. I was one of the people who said I didn't think that was going to happen. Just with the way the offense was coming in, they figured it out. PCA with a big knock here in the final game. Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki. This offense has got a lot behind it. But bigger than anything, again, I'm going back to a game 1 because of how important it was. Matthew Boyd. Who knew that Matthew Boyd was going to be arguably the best starting pitching pickup of the entire offseason?
Right. No, absolutely. I was shocked too. I was like, wait, is this just a new Matthew Boyd? Like, is there just another guy that was in the minors that we didn't know about? I was just so confused. I was like, when did this happen?
The way he has pitched over the last 2 seasons has been so impressive. I think what I find the most impressive here is we're talking about a guy who averages a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, but had a 10 run value on his fastball this year. He's the epitome of a pitcher, and there's no other way to put that. I'm very excited to see this style of pitching get back into the game rather than just the overpowering I throw 97 plus, come get it. Boyd's ability to mix his fastball, still using it 46% of the time, even at a lower velo, has been so impressive throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be a fun matchup. I know we're going to get further into it, but this is probably the one. I know obviously the glitz and glamour on New York and LA and all that, but I'm going to be glued to my seats watching this one. Mainly just because I'm in the Midwest now, so it's going to be easier to watch in my time zone. But no, I'm very excited just because of how these teams play.
Absolutely, and again, having a series like New York Toronto, having a series like Chicago Milwaukee, I think it does a lot of good for the game as well when the proximity is the way it is there. The Dodgers they've been who we thought they were some days, and they're not who we thought they are other days. But the biggest thing that I would point out through the wild card series is we probably saw the one thing that the Phillies and every other team who could potentially be playing them on the National League side didn't want to see, and that was Mookie Betts get hot, Teoscar Hernandez get hot, Shohei put a ball over the wall, and oh, by the way, it turns out Kike Hernandez is Babe Ruth in the playoffs.
Yep. So I was about to say, we got to talk about Kike. It's just, it seems like every time it's like, oh yeah, this guy's really good in October. It's like a shock every time.
And at this point, the fact that we're shocked about it, like, shame on us, right? We're at this point where it is a true shame on us situation. Kike has been excellent. I'm excited to see how the one thing that is always interesting about the Dodgers, and regardless of how anybody feels about the Dodgers, is their level of depth is to a point where it's very interesting to see how they construct the roster game to game in the playoffs, right? They're going to find a spot for Kike. And for those of you who don't know why we talk about him like this, Kike's career slash line is 236, 305, 403. That is through 4,100 plate appearances. In 206 plate appearances in the postseason, Kike Hernandez slashes 286, 357, 525. His WOBA is 373 in the postseason compared to what is a below league average WOBA in the regular season of 305. This is a guy who also can play every position on the diamond, probably can catch two if we asked him to. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, he did throw innings this year. Not that that's what we're looking for. So
No.
We're not here to just talk about Mookie and Freddie and all these guys. Kike is generally a four hitter in the postseason.
He's just
really know what else
vibes.
to say anymore.
He's just vibes. Dude. Like, he's just, I don't know how you don't root for him. Whenever I'm just like, this guy's, he's just always happy. And he's just always having fun.
I agree. Other thing that I'd like to shout out to is the staff for the Dodgers did look good. Blake Snell has been really, really good down the stretch, just coming back from injury. Excited to see what he looks like in this next series, because I think that's probably where we should start. I think you'd probably agree. The series I'm most excited about is what I would consider right now Goliath versus Goliath in the Phillies and the Dodgers. Game 1-2. Ohtani going up against Christopher Sanchez. I mean, again, if you got two high payroll teams, you may as well get to see something of this nature. And immediately off rip, we're getting an excellent matchup from these two teams.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been wanting to see Shohei pitch in the postseason too for a long time, so I'm really glad that we're getting that. I think you put it best, Goliath versus Goliath. And I mean, I don't want to jump the gun on anything, but I feel like the team that wins this has a very good shot of making it to the World Series, just because of how they're constructed and just what they have. I'm excited to see how, talking about the depth of the Dodgers, what they do pitching wise. You know, with Ohtani, Yamamoto's going to be a guy. We know that. Snell, what's he going to do coming back off injury? You got to think they'll have Kershaw on there in some form or fashion. You know, they didn't put him on the wild card because he pitched game 162. Didn't really make a lot of sense. and then also Roki Sasaki's throwing 100 again. So
and for those of you who don't know, when Roki Sasaki throws similar to Jack Leiter over 96, he's a dog. That's just what it is at the current moment. I do want to point out for the Dodgers too, we're talking about the only team on the NL side of the wild card that had 2 pitchers go more than 6 innings in their postseason start. Right, this is old school hardball that the Dodgers can throw at you. Let's talk about this matchup from an overall perspective here. One of the things that I find really interesting that potentially lends itself to the Phillies is when you look at the Dodgers season broken down by whether they faced a lefty or a righty, they were much, quote unquote, worse against left-handed starters than right-handed starters. They were 24-23 against left-handed starters. One of the big matchup pieces here for the Phillies is the fact that they're going to run out Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, and Jesus Luzardo. I do think there is some level of advantage that will give them. However, curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the win-loss on them. I knew that there had been some struggles, or I guess struggles. Just they're not as good against lefties. So yeah, thinking about it's going to be just like it is with every postseason. Who makes the first? Who blinks first? Who do the Dodgers say, "Oh man, we got to face 3 lefties," and kind of tuck their tail a little bit, which I highly doubt anybody on the Dodgers, just knowing that team. But again, it's postseason. Or do the Phillies kind of do they exude, are they more confident? Like, oh, we got 3 lefties, we're good. And then boom, 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 it's 3-0. And what just happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's going to be a heavyweight fight the whole way. Ali Frazier type stuff. I think we're just going to see, for anyone that, if you're a Dodgers fan or a Phillies fan, and if you have any sort of heart condition, please make sure you have your medicine, because I feel like we're going to see a lot of swings of emotion and momentum in this series now. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be electric no matter what.
And Flea Market, appreciate you commenting here on YouTube. I apologize. I'm still getting used to where the chat goes for YouTube. One, we would love to interview Blake Trinan. I don't know if you knew this, but Blake Trinan's turbo sinker is my spirit animal. Legitimately, I've tweeted that multiple times.
Nasty.
If you need proof, we would love to do it. Thank you again for the kudos on the Brad Lidge interview. Yeah, listen, I think the next place that I go here with this matchup is X factors, right? I'm going to be really easy on my X factor for the Phillies, and it is simply Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think this is one for me that needs to be complicated. I think a lot of times you may look down a roster and see somebody who's a little bit lower in the order that needs to go. I like a thought of a Max Kepler or something of that nature for an X factor. However, Harper is very much so the piss and vinegar on this Phillies roster, and I think the offense is going to go when he goes. Guys like Schwarber feed off of him. Guys like Turner, who's coming back from injury, feed off of him. It'll be really interesting to see if the Phillies captain is able to help them through that.
Trey Turner, the batting champion, at 305 for the year. So,
Hey, listen, he ain't that bad. Do you have
No.
anybody specific on the Phillies that you think has to produce for them to make this happen?
It's got to be Bryce. I mean, he's always it seems like every time that, anytime the Phillies have needed him the last few years in a spot in the postseason, he shows up, and it's automatic almost. Like, it's 7th inning. It's been a tight game. Phillies have a chance to break it open. The stadium's going nuts. You hear Bryce's walk up, and it's first pitch, change up, floater, boom, in the stands, and Citizens Bank Park's going to collapse. It's like you just feel like it's going to happen. Like, I would be shocked if there's not at least one moment like that in this series for Bryce Harper. He'll have many moments, I'm sure, of importance, but as far as bring the house down, it's got to be Bryce.
Absolutely. I look at it the way we saw him in DC. He was unbelievable in game 1s of the season, and the energy that brought to the fan base for the entirety of then the next 161 was immaculate. Flipping over to the Dodgers, my X factor is not a player. My X factor is their bullpen. I don't know how else to put it, right? Roki's emergence over the wild card series and over the final month of the season, being able to really help them in the back end of the bullpen and in high leverage moments has been big. We know there's been a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of injuries, to be very clear here, which the Dodgers have dealt with throughout the entire year when it comes to their overall pitching staff. From a Dodgers perspective, what needs to happen for them to win this series?
Yeah, Dave Roberts just has to make the right moves with the bullpen. As simple as that. And we've seen him sometimes overmanage. We've seen him sometimes just, hey, let the guy go. Hopefully we don't have a situation where he has Blake Snell and he's got a guy in the bullpen like, hey, that guy's a good matchup for this, and Blake Snell's throwing a gem. Hopefully we don't get flashbacks of that. But with this, we've also seen the Dodgers throughout this past postseasons that they find ways with their bullpen. They just, for whatever sort of magic they have, whatever special potion that they have, maybe Michael Jordan's down there in LA helping them out and giving
secret stuff, baby.
Secret stuff.
For all of you old enough to remember Michael's secret stuff.
But it really is. It's also throughout. I'm just using postseasons of the past. It just seems like the Dodgers, when they need a bullpen, a spot in the bullpen, more often than not, that guy comes through, and it's like, who was that guy? We didn't know about him, or it was a guy that he was a middle reliever, didn't get used all that much, but then he comes into the 7th inning, 8th inning, and slams the door shut.
You got a guy like Ben Kasparius last year. We saw him emerge as well, right? So I'm totally with you here. I think they probably will find a way to be competitive. One thing before we decide how we feel about this series, Shohei Ohtani did say today he was extremely excited to get the postseason vibe on the hill. I'm questioning if he understands, though, what Red October looks like in Citizens Bank Park. And I don't say that because he can't handle it. I say that because that is an animal that nobody experiences until you do. No,
you're absolutely right. I still have nightmares of a couple years ago, Spencer Strider going up there and just getting rocked. So it is a beast. And kind of talking about the Bryce Harper and the piss and vinegar for the team, he's the piss and vinegar for the whole stadium. I feel like.
Yeah, they're gonna be on top of him for sure. All right, DS here. Who's taking this series home? We're gonna start with the hardest one first.
Dodgers in 5.
Dodgers in 5. Wow.
It's a tough one. I've been going back and forth all day.
I for the sake of people being able to clip me and make fun of me, I'm gonna go Phillies in 4. Okay. I think the left-handed matchup helps. I know for a fact that Bryce and that group recognize they're getting older. They recognize who's not going to be there next year, potentially in Schwarber, in Real Muto, in Ranger Suarez. I think there's some urgency in that clubhouse. And the bigger question for me with this series is, do the hot bats of LA getting to play in the wild card simply take over too quick?
Yep.
All right. Love it. Cubs, Brewers. Let's go to the other NL matchup. I definitely, like you said, this is one of the more intriguing series. You get a Midwest battle, a group of players that from a national perspective, sometimes I don't think people know as well, especially the Brewers group. It's a little bit unassuming when you look at the payroll as well. We get Matthew Boyd versus Freddie Peralta game 1. I am extremely excited for this matchup. Freddie Peralta has been one of my favorite guys for quite a while now. He boasts an electric fastball and can absolutely grind out innings. This is another group of guys here who I could see in this first start of game 1, especially if the scoring is low, going 5+ innings in their postseason outings.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it is Midwest baseball, I feel like, with these guys. It's just, I'm trying to think of the best analogy here that won't make anybody in the Midwest mad and use any bad stereotypes.
I'm from Northeast. I lived in Northeast Ohio for 10 years, so I'll let you know.
No, it's blue collar. Let's leave it at that.
Absolutely.
It really is like blue collar baseball with this. It feels, obviously the Cubs. It feels odd to say blue collar with the Cubs. With they do have a large payroll, but with how they play the game, same with the Brewers. I am very excited. Like we talked about at the beginning, in the wild card with Detroit and Cleveland, these teams know each other. They saw each other a lot this year. So who's going to get the edge in the advanced scouting side of things? Who's going to see? Who's going to have something that's like, we've seen that reliever enough times. We've hit him well. We know what to do. I feel like that's going to be some fun conversations that we'll have, some fun analysis that'll happen. And again, both these teams know it. So they're going to have all that information of, hey, we can't put, or not so much we can't, but let's try not to put so and so in this situation, because when we tried that this year, he got shelled. Or on the flip side, let's make sure we get this guy in this situation because when we put him in, he's shoved.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too that I look at with this series is, one, I'm not sure if you saw this, but Brandon Woodruff is not going to be on the roster for the Brewers, and Cade Horton is not going to be on the roster for the Cubs. Those are two starting arms that both teams are definitely going to miss. Woodruff has been great since he came back and has been healthy. It's been wonderful to see. And Horton obviously is going to be vying for a Rookie of the Year bid. Breaking back down on this Game 1 matchup here, again, I'm going to go back to Freddie Peralta, his high ride fastball. He's a 4-pitch mix guy against righties and does use the slider just enough for me to consider him a 4-pitch mix guy against lefties. I think the biggest question here in Game 1 for him and to get the Brewers out on the right foot is going to be whether or not he can keep guys like Kyle Tucker and PCA quiet at the plate. There's no real other way to put that up front.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the Cubs they really do put they put the pedal to the metal, and they really make pitchers work. And like you said, Freddie Peralta, he does have, he does grind out innings, but it's a lot easier to grind out innings when you're only going 15 at a time. When you're going 25, 30, it's a lot harder to keep any sort of pace. So it is going to be interesting. I think too, Seiya Suzuki, can he just get that spark back? I think having him, he's such a. I am a huge Seiya Suzuki fan, so maybe there's a little bias there. But I love his swing. I love his profile when he's on, and I think that could be a big X factor. I guess to jump into it for the Cubs, if Seiya can. Like we were talking about with Anthony Volpe on the Yankees, keep that line moving and be a presence in that lineup and not just hope maybe he can do something here. And
we're talking about a guy who hits in the middle of that lineup, right? Yep. He is their big right-handed power threat. And as rude of it as it was of me to just do this, forgetting to mention the wild card series that Michael Busch had, absolutely mashed the ball all over the park. He was the best hitter across the board for the Cubs in that series. Again, another guy that I look at in Game 1 really needs to help get that offense and take that momentum that the Cubs have coming out of Game 3 of the wild card. For those of you who aren't as familiar with it and why we talk about the difference in the teams who get to have rest or teams that don't, right now, since 2022, when we started a bye to introduce the wild cards to the number 1 seeds, getting buys essentially, right, across the board, or 4 teams. The teams who get buys are at a 50% win rate. In 2022, 3 of the 4 teams with buys won. In 2023, 1 of the 4 teams with buys won. And in 2024, last year, 2 of the teams with buys won. So there is this potential that we're still learning about because we have such a small sample size lag that it can create. But we'd love to see it stay at 50% because that's what makes baseball fun in this scenario.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
And as much as one of my teams was one of the buys that did get bounced a couple years ago, I still think it's a great thing, if we can keep it at 50%.
Yeah, I think my thing always is I'd love to see the wild card be a little bit longer. I also understand the thought process of pitching and how much you'd have to space it out to make it work and how deep into November we would go if that was the case. Maybe not the right play. Either way, wild card series, still fun, happy to have them. X factor for you on the Brewers.
On the Brewer, you know what? I'm gonna go Yelich. I think Yelich is a good, just because he's been there, and this Brewers team is. I really would be shocked if you gave like just a standard baseball fan, let's say in New York or Atlanta or Boston, or give them the Brewers lineup with pictures. Like, do you know who this guy is? And Yelich will be like the one that they'll all know. But he's been on these teams, and I think that him being a presence there and being able to take this team to take that next step will be huge because they have a lot of young guys there that can, feed off of him. And I mean, Jackson Churio, stud. But he's got a. I think Yelich for him. I think it's just a big moment for him overall to say, "Hey guys, watch me do what I do, and just follow my lead."
Yeah, and you know what? The big thing that I love about your comment on Yelich and why he's so important, though, is Yelich has the ability to potentially take the pressure off of guys who over the next 4 to 5 years will be the ones that all the pressure is on. A guy like Jackson Churio is an extremely good example of that. He's still very young. This is his second postseason across the board. My X factor for them is a guy who's gotten MVP votes the last 2 seasons and will not get MVP votes this year, and that's William Contreras. I think he has to come to the table and swing the bat well. I said that about them down the stretch, trying to lock up and have the best record in the NL. It's super important. Now, this is a guy who since August has hit 9 home runs, hit better than he had throughout the season, but also had 0 home runs in September and is only hitting marginally better than he did early in the season when he was struggling. They need his bat in that lineup to be a spark plug. He's also a guy who historically for them in big moments during the regular season and postseason, when he's had the opportunity, has shown up. He did that for the Braves as well, if you remember. And that's something that the Brewers are going to have to make a very deep run this year into the playoffs and, in my opinion, to push off the Cubs. I know you said that Seiya Suzuki was your X factor for the Cubs. I like that call. I think for me, I'm going to actually stick it with Michael Busch, and here's the reason why. I want to play the momentum card on this one. Michael Busch was not though he's a big part of their lineup, he wasn't one of the first 4 names out of people's mouths as who was going to be this impactful. He's the type of guy who, in my opinion, I'd love to see them consistently actually hit him 5. With the way he's swinging the bat, we know that the 5 hole is where you see the most runners on base on a regular basis. That's just analytics at its finest, right? I'd love to see them keep him in an area of that nature. And I look to see him swing the bat well against these lefty starters for the Cubs. They are going to need to find either game 1 or game 2 against Boyd and Imanaga, and they're going to have to hit well against Taillon.
Yeah, they got to steal 1. I feel like that's I don't know, but that's
absolutely.
That's gonna be
it's
gonna be fun. And I was gonna, before we move to you're talking Contreras and hitting, and I was just gonna piggyback off of that with a guy that kind of not so much came out of nowhere, but just had a power surge for Milwaukee was Bryce Terang. You can't rely on Bryce Terang to keep that up. We have much more of a track record of William Contreras doing that. So as much as it'd be cool for Bryce Terang to still hit in the 4th spot for whatever reason and hit bombs, I think I just I agree totally with Contreras, and we will see.
Yeah, high likelihood that the Brewers end up being a little heavy on righty starters as we move into this postseason, which is another thing that's going to help Michael Busch's splits. But I think the Cubs have to have one of their lefties win a start real early here to get them moving in the right direction. I've got the Brewers here in 4.
Great minds think alike.
We'll see it. I said the Cubs weren't making it out of the wild card. So, ladies and gentlemen, this would be that time where we're not a betting podcast and we're not a betting live. But no. I've already said Phillies in 4 and I've said Brewers in 4. So fading me, this is probably the time. Moving on to the AL side of the card here, let's start with the big dumper in the Seattle Mariners. Where I have to start with this group is that, listen, bringing in Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez at the deadline was huge for this group. You're bringing in two guys with postseason experience. You're bringing in two guys with pop. You're bringing in a guy who was already hit in T-Mobile. This is a huge advantage for them. We saw the offense be very solid down the stretch with a lot of spark. I'm excited to see George Kirby go game one as well, right? I understand he hasn't been himself 100% since coming back from injury, but I think George Kirby going game one, who is a guy who should give you very solid innings, is going to be big. And with the Detroit team, who if I remember correctly, and let me double check, maybe it changed. Okay, they did announce that it's going to be Troy Melton starting game one. This is a guy who has gone back and forth, right? He's been a spot type starter for them, but it does tell me that he's going to get an opportunity. There's a high likelihood for an early hook. So probably a glorified bullpen game here in game one for the Tigers.
That's what it sounds like now. But yeah, I mean, Seattle in pitching the last few years has just been incredible, and I'm very excited. Now, obviously, Cal and Julio and Suarez, they deserve their praise, but being able to see, again, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, and do we know if Brian Woo's going to be able to make it? I don't know. I would be kind of surprised just because of how late the injury was in the year. And now I don't think he, let me look real quick. I don't think he ever actually went on an injured list, but that would be a huge boost too. To Seattle if he does come back. But again, if he's coming back off injury, how effective is he going to be? So on and so forth.
He's not expected to be available for the DS as of last report, unfortunately for them. But he has been throwing in some way, shape, or form of recent. So they are going to have to slide through without him. And correct me if I'm wrong here. I would believe then that the number 4 for them will be Bryce Miller, who has obviously had a little bit of an up and down season. However, being able to run out Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, George Kirby, and Bryce Miller, that's as good as anybody in baseball. Again, Kirby is a guy who I think is going to show up. He tends to for the big moments. He loves being in these spots, as we've seen from him before. And he's another one of those guys in baseball right now who truly, truly pitches, though he has very high velo stuff on a consistent basis. He's not the type of guy who's focused on throwing 96 plus every single pitch. He does have a 6-pitch mix that he uses to both sides of the plate. So excited to see what Kirby does here in game one. On the Detroit side, bullpen game, a little bit stressful, a little bit scary when you come out of a game 3 of a wild card. They did use quite a few arms out of their bullpen in that last game. However, I do think they have enough bullpen depth, but they are going to need in game 2 and game 3 Skubal and Flaherty to really, really come through and make sure that team has enough time. And I'm sorry, I believe it actually be Skubal and Mize. So either way, they're going to need to save that bullpen. Tigers, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I don't know that the offense that they're getting from Javier Baez is sustainable. I'm not sure that he's going to have another 5 hits in his 11 at-bats. That would be asking a lot. But the 2 big pieces for them that I look at are going to be Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter to continue swinging the bat well, and Spencer Torkelson finding ways to put the ball over the fence.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Javi turn into, mid 2010s Javi with the Cubs and, be that guy in the postseason. But, again, he's had an up and down season. Obviously did get an all-star, which was fun to see. But I totally agree that it's going to rely really on those 3 guys in the middle of the lineup to keep this Detroit lineup moving and keep up with the bombs from Seattle, because we know Cal's going to hit some, Julio's going to hit some, Suarez is going to hit some, Naylor's going to hit some. I mean, homers in the postseason. I mean, they win as much as there are some fans out there that don't like the home run or nothing approach. I mean, it wins ball games, especially now when every game means more than the last one.
I would totally agree. Andrew, hope you're having a good day, brother. Baseball today, if you don't know him, you should know him. go find him on X when you have an opportunity. Listen, I want to stop real quick. The Rangers, I believe, just hired Skip Schumacher before the fifth
Ah,
passing. So, though that is not the topic we are focused on tonight, you and I did have some managerial discussions here. I want to verify that I'm not crazy. Yes, they have. They have
you didn't
hired
get like
Skip Schumacher.
jet passoned. You didn't get
Yes,
me into fake
yes.
one.
No, no, not this time. Not this time. Arson Judge is not
Arson Judge.
a New York Yankee. I wasn't even passing. That was rude. Either way, X factor here for me. I'm gonna go with the same X factor that I went with for the first series for Detroit, and that's a guy who does hit lower in the lineup, and that's a guy who I think is going to need to hit well in this series against a starting rotation for the Mariners that, as good as they are extremely right-handed heavy, aka not a single left-handed starter, and that's Parker Meadows. Parker Meadows, coming off injury, had not hit well down the stretch necessarily, still getting feel. He was 3 for 12 in the initial series. With that 3 for 12, he did only strike out 3 times. I'm going to go with only because he has had a large swing and the miss down the stretch over the last year or so. Need to see Meadows swing the bat well and continue to play a very high level center field for them.
I love that one. And yeah, I was thinking too. I was like, yeah, there's not a lefty starter. That was shocking in this day and age in baseball. But when you have those, when you have the options that Seattle does, I mean.
And let's throw out too. They've only got 2 lefties in the bullpen as well,
Yeah.
right? In Gabe Spire and Caleb Ferguson. So that platoon split is going to have to be extremely, extremely important for Detroit to win this series.
Yeah, and I think for my X factor, it's going to be the guy I was talking about, Kerry Carpenter. He did have that. He had overall a solid year, but again, just kind of ups and downs. And when he was locked, he was locked. And speaking of the platoon split, can he take advantage of that and really turn into a real power presence in the Detroit lineup? And not to say that he wasn't a power presence for Detroit. He had 26 home runs this year. But in the postseason, again, home runs win. And you're going up against a very, very home run heavy, I don't know how many times I could say it, Seattle team. And you're just going to have to keep up. There's not really any other way around it. And with the platoon splits there of righty-lefty, it's their form to take advantage.
Absolutely. On the Seattle side, and I just want to make sure that this is my guy here. Yes, it is. Seattle had a guy by the name of Jorge Polanco, who also looked like Babe Ruth for the first month of the season.
He did.
Very impressive. Now on the flip side, he had a very underwhelming middle of the year comparatively, right? The dog days of summers catch up to everybody at the end of the day. It is just part of baseball, but he's going to be my X factor here for the Seattle Mariners. And the reason why I say that is because in September, Polanco, over 93 plate appearances, hit 4 home runs, 13 doubles, and hit 329. That's pop. That's thump. They are going to need him to swing the bat that way. My honorable mention is going to be the guy that I love to death, and that's Josh Naylor, because guess what? When Josh Naylor does anything, everybody's hair's on fire, not just his.
Yep, you took it from me. I was going to go Naylor.
Damn, that's on me. That was rude. Rude by me.
No, it's fine because, he really is. He is so much fun to watch. And with this team, he just fits so well with just Seattle just has – I just love they are a vibes kind of team too, I think. And Naylor is that guy, I feel like, for them. And I am very excited to see – can he continue to produce for them in the postseason, and hopefully, maybe take a little bit of, the spotlight or the pressure, even though I really don't think he feels it, off of Cal and Julio, and just say, hey guys, I can hit home runs too. It's okay. You guys can chill out for a little bit.
Absolutely. And I want to throw out there too. Oh, that was not supposed to happen. For those of you who are curious to Josh Naylor's spunk, Go look up what Josh Naylor did to the Chicago White Sox in 2022, and you will know everything you need to know about him, and he will formally let you know that he is him, as he says multiple times during a game that happened in, I believe, May of that year. Let's go to our final matchup. Oh, well, no, we can't. We gotta finish with who's gonna win this series. All right, I'll start again. Don't want to be the guy going with all the teams that are favored, but right now, I am going to give the edge to Seattle this one. I'm going to go 5 games on this. The reason why is because I just think this feels like such a gritty, grinded out type series. Now, of every series, and I hate to say it this way, this is the series that I see with the highest probability of a sweep, and it's simply due to the arms in Detroit right now. If they had Job healthy, if they had Reese Olson healthy, this is very much so a 5-game series to me. I just am concerned that they might be a little worn out.
Yeah. I'm going to go Mariners in 4. Again, with the pitching, and I just, as much as the Detroit is a very gritty team, I just don't know if they have the guys to outslug what Seattle has. Even though obviously you have the best pitcher on the planet going, he's only one guy, and he's obviously saying Tarek School is only one guy. I'm not saying that he's just he's the best pitcher in the game, but he can't pitch every inning. He can't. Will he go out and probably dominate his game? Yeah, absolutely.
And would he try to pitch every inning? Absolutely.
Absolutely. But if you're telling me that I also have to rely on Casey Mize or Jack Flaherty to subdue that lineup, I just don't have a lot of faith in those guys, to do that. Now, again, can obviously be proven wrong, but just from how the Seattle team has been and with the pitching that will be behind them, that can probably stymie the Detroit offense a little bit. I don't think we're going to see a lot of 8-5, big run games, but it could be 4-1. 5-1, but it's Cal Raleigh hitting a 3-run bomb. It's Naylor. It's Julio. I mean, and Detroit.
Dude, it's JP Crawford down the stretch.
Yeah, at this point.
Craziness. All right, well, let's move on to the final matchup here to preview in the divisional series, and that is an AL East slugfest. The Yankees versus the Blue Jays. Game 1, we get Luis Gil and Kevin Gausman. I'm excited for this series as well as I'm excited for all of them, of course. However, this is just I love watching AL East series to begin with in the postseason, so getting Red Sox Yankees was already fun, let alone that the then entree after the appetizer is I get Yankees versus Blue Jays in the next series. In a Blue Jays team that was throughout the entire season and consistently one of the best teams in all of baseball. I think their veteran pitching staff has really, really helped move them down the line here. Shane Bieber being healthy, huge, right?
Yeah.
Eric Lauer, former first-round pick out of my alma mater, Kent State, looking like the first-round pick that San Diego thought that they were getting years ago, is absolutely huge. Excited for this series. We started and talked a little bit about the Yankees already. The conversation with Toronto is the same conversation that we had with the Dodgers. And that's the question of, can the bullpen do enough? And in the high leverage moments, I'm looking at you, Jeff Hoffman. Can the Blue Jays shut the game down? I look at nothing else with this, because the starting staff on the Blue Jays, though in every postseason series, in a 5-game series, there's going to be there will be a starter from each side for sure that gets probably slugged out. But there's a high likelihood that the grinders that they have, even if that happens, are going to eat up the rest of those innings to make sure that everybody else is healthy and ready to go. Yeah. So I'm questioning the bullpen of Toronto. That offense is legit. The 3-headed monster of Bo Bichette, George Springer, and Vladimir Guerrero is going to be a gauntlet. All series long. I'm excited.
Yeah, and again with the bullpen, I mean, it really is with going up against the Yankees lineup. You know, trying to make sure that you get these guys in the leverage positions that they need to be in, and not going up against uh, Judge and Bellinger back to back in a very high pressure spot when they don't need to be there. Obviously, there's only so many things you can control in the game, but I definitely agree with the bullpen aspect, and also too on the Blue Jay side on the offense. I mean, yeah, we have the three-headed monster. Then we also have a guy that is probably one of my favorite guys to watch in baseball in Varsho, and
Yeah.
see what he can
Welcome
do.
back.
Yeah, and see what he can do for this team. He is kind of a spark plug kind of guy. Not a term that I use a lot, but I really feel like he can be that guy for them in the postseason.
Totally agree. Happy to see him back. His defensive play in center field is impressive, especially for many of you who may or may not know this. Varsho did come out up through the minor leagues as a catcher. He is a guy who is still listed as one of their emergency catchers as needed. Just an extremely versatile player. Has hit quite well since he's come back. 262, 5 home runs, 4 doubles, over 22 hits throughout September. So it would be really great to see Varsho continue to swing the bat well for them. Um, Again, I want to flip back to the pitching matchups. Luis Heel, decent season this year. Um, on the flip side, Rodon and Fried looking like aces. Cam Schlittler decided he was an ace. We talked about him already. We gave him a lot. But I think the bigger piece for me on the flip side of Toronto is the Yankees' bullpen has been relatively rolling throughout the stretch of the season. I recognize that game one. Game one fell a little bit apart on the back end, but David Bednar, Camilo Duvall, Devin Williams, just statistical nightmare this year. He actually wasn't all that bad. Luck just simply seemed to not be on his side all year long. Fernando Cruz with arguably the dirtiest splitter in all of baseball. I think this bullpen's on the opposite foot. They've looked very solid. They've looked really energetic. And the Yankees are going to need that to continue because, again, we've got some younger guys who are going to be throwing a lot of innings for them off rip in a Will Warren, in a Luis Hill, and a Cam Schlittler. Again, you probably see Hill and Warren be rotational pieces depending on matchups, but I'm excited to see. I think the Yankees bullpen is extremely important here.
Yeah, it is. With speaking on Fernando Cruz, I'm surprised he didn't burst a blood vessel when he came off the mound in that last game.
Awesome.
But that's the postseason. That's what we love to see. This means obviously a lot to these guys, and they're putting in their best effort, and to see the Yankees bullpen performing like this just as a whole is very encouraging. But yeah, again, with the young guys that are throwing, it's just, hey, welcome to October, boys. And you gotta, as much as you gotta kind of get baptized by fire sometimes. And how are they going to approach it? We'll see.
Yeah, and I want to again throw out here just trend breaking over what we've seen the last couple of the years. Rodon, Fried, and Schlittler all threw over 6 innings in their starts. They're guys that the Yankees are expecting, in my opinion, to have the ball, and if they keep the numbers low and the game's in tow, they'll keep the ball in their hand. I love to see that. I think that is some gritty, hard-nosed, old-school baseball. Let's flip back to the Blue Jays here. I know who he is, so go ahead and say it. Your X factor for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Dalton Varsho. Gotta know it. Again, I mean, you're talking about how he was a catcher, and now he's got incredible defense in the outfield. We call those athletes, and he is a fantastic athlete. And again, he has looked good coming back, and I think that can be not so much that the Toronto lineup needed like a big boost, but it gives them some more length in the lineup. Where now we have that three-headed monster, but we can't forget about some of these guys down here because you try to sneak one by Varsho and he puts it 430 feet into the stands, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy can hit a little bit.
Yeah.
And then also that's a double in the gap, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, he caught that. Never mind.
I totally agree. Making some spectacular plays. I love your outfielder statement there, or not outfield. Sorry, athlete statement there. That's excellent. Um, mine, I guess I find relatively interesting here. How about Anthony Santander after being hurt, after the money that was spent on him? This is a guy who hits from both sides of the plate. This is a guy with a ton of pop, as we all know. If he can find 50% of what he had last year, since coming back from injury, did not hit great when he came back up in September over his only 10 ABs, but it's like everything else. We all know that it takes time to adjust to big league pitching. And frankly, for Santander, no better time than now. I am going to throw out one more, and that's the easy one that we've already discussed here. Truly, past him, the answer is Jeff Hoffman, Jeff Hoffman, Jeff Hoffman, Jeff Hoffman, Jeff Hoffman. Yeah. Question mark all year. He's looked untouchable 33% of the time, and he's looked very hittable 66% of the time is what it seemed like. So we'll see what we get out of him. X factor for the Yankees. I'm going to go Max Fried winning 2 games for the Yankees. I think that's what the X factor is going to be. He's going to need 2 very, very good starts, as I expect him to go in game 2 and probably game 5.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, he's looked great, obviously. I mean, Max Fried, he's Max Fried. But again, I totally agree that he's gonna have to do it. For me, my X factor, I'm gonna go back to the Yankees bullpen. I'm going to go on Devin Williams. We talked about how it seemed like all the dialogue was that he's the worst pickup the Yankees had. But when you dive into it, it's like the stuff's still there, and he has shown the glimpses, and he's shown, hey, I can do this. I can still lock in and do this. And when Devin Williams is on a heater like that and he's locked in, good luck even sniffing the baseball because you're not touching it. And if you do, it's a 3-hopper to the shortstop or the second baseman and you're out. So I think if he can just get back and lock in like that for this series when his name is called, I think that just, one, boosts everybody in the Yankees bullpen, but it's also like, oh, we got a weapon here. We really can ride this guy. Let's go win a series.
Yeah, and we'll move to it. I've got Yankees in 5 here. I think Aaron Judge is going to hit 2+ home runs this series. I think Giancarlo Stanton puts one over the wall. And like I already said with my X factor, I think Max Fried, game 2, game 5, I think those are 2 Yankees wins in my scenario.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Yankees in 5.
Whew. A lot of agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, fade us as fast as humanly possible.
Yep, absolutely.
As fast as humanly possible. All right, let's finish this up with our final portion of this. Some very good teams left. Who do you think right now has the highest probability to run the table?
My heart wants to say Seattle just because they've never been.
Absolutely.
My brain, in as much as I think the Dodgers do have a team that can make it, I'm gonna stick with my brain and go Yankees. I really think the Yankees can do it this year.
Good roster. You imagine you saying that while Garrett Cole's on the IL. I mean, it's crazy, but that lineup is good. I'm gonna go with the Phillies. I said earlier in our live that I think there's an understanding in that locker room that this is the last year of this conglomerate of this team with Schwarber, with Realmuto. A guy like Ranger Suarez talking about in interviews how badly he wants to come back to Philly, but he doesn't know if it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably Red October. And as a Nationals fan, it's still really hard for me to say all this crap, but here we are.
Oh, trust me, as a Braves fan, it's hard to hear too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Bryce, you can have your one, and then I'm going to stop talking about this, dude.
Then that's it.
Stop talking about it.
Imagine the fan interactions if it's Yankees Phillies. That is gold right there. That is gold content right there.
That might be the most fun possible scenario for atmospheres. Is where I'm going to go now. I would love to see Seattle make it because I think that city lights up for that ball club.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. I'd love to see Seattle come out of the AL side, and I'd love to see them have an opportunity to win. Again, with what we're talking about here, it's just hard for me to say anything other than I think the Phillies are the best on paper, and I think they have the veteran leadership and the veteran know-how to get it done this year.
Yeah. Regardless, we have a lot of fun matchups coming up, and this should be. I am stoked for all of them because there's storylines with all of them. There's players to watch with all of them. There's just so much going on, and I hopefully they all go to 5 and we get as much baseball as possible.
Listen, man, and I'll say it till I fall over. When my team's not in, I want as much baseball as humanly possible in the postseason, and I'm not shy to say it.
Nope.
I'm just not. So let's hope for some great series. Justin, thank you so much for coming on, filling in for Flax and Jackson on some off nights for both of them. Ladies and gentlemen, for all of you who hung around and watched with us, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much for listening to our commentary. Again, this is your chance to fade our statements and make yourself some money potentially. Kidding. Either way, Baseball Unstitched, we have a podcast that drops every single Tuesday. Make sure to like and follow if you are not already part of our crew here on X, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. Additionally, on Fridays, we tend to do lives just like this one, talking about what's been going on throughout the week of baseball. If you haven't seen it already, go check out our latest interview with former Phillies closer Brad Lidge. Had a great time with him, and having the opportunity to talk to somebody who has done what he's done at the major league level was an absolute treat. But past that, once again, that's Justin Aguiar. If you don't know him, go follow him, say what's up. Good dude right there, knows ball. But have a great day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the postseason baseball.